Didn't the entire history of humankind ever strike you as illogical? The documented history of human civilization is supposed to reach several millennia back into the past. And yet if we consider the rate at which civilization is supposed to have progressed, we encounter periods of obscurity and informational vacuum following the alleged decline of every ancient empire. And then everything starts anew. Inventions are presumed lost for centuries, then reinvented by people whose names bear suspicious semblance to those of the ancient inventors. Just how true all of this is? Could history as we know it really be a collation of several chronicles relating to one and the same period of time? Apparently, this is what the Russian mathematician Anatoly Fomenko claims. He is the author of the first volume in a series of 7 that came out in English recently, and generated incredible controversy amongst professional historians worldwide. However, all of his work conforms to the highest academic standards and is backed by solid scientific facts. Furthermore, some of the most lucid minds of our time support many of the theories put forward by the authors. Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, says the following in his preface to Volume 1. Documented history tells us of the insatiable need of human beings to make discoveries. The vector of technological progress is a strictly vertical one. Every 10 years something happens, discoveries, sea voyages, explosions, everything keeps on changing. We see constant evolution, from Columbus to the landing on the moon, from crossbows to nuclear bombs. Forwards and upwards. However, the traditional ancient history tells us of periods when humanity apparently remained dormant for centuries. Ancient Egypt, the medieval Dark Ages hold epochs of utter stasis in human thinking. It appears that the inhabitants of ancient Egypt and Rome had a different genetic code, and couldn't be bothered about anything at all, so they froze in their development, the result being a total lack of innovative activity. At the same time, there had been prosperous ancient empires where those among Homo sapiens who possessed penchants for arts and sciences could get plenty of opportunities for growth and development. But, alas and alack, all of the prosperous ancient empires had ceased their development at some point. How much do we know about the Goths? Those fortunate enough to keep at a sound distance from the historical discourse shall probably think of those numerous Bela Lugosi impersonators who live by their hairspray and their macabre aesthetics. Those who did devote some of their time to tearing through all the insurmountable dogma and inexplicable lacunae in place of vibrant ages and civilizations that one finds in history textbooks will doubtlessly think of Jordanes and Cassiodorus in this respect, and recollect the Goths to have been a group of Germanic tribes who swarmed Europe in the alleged 3rd century AD, and alleged is a key word here, to rape, pillage and terrorize. But how Germanic were they really, and when exactly have they been introduced to us as such? According to Anatoly Fomenko, one of the world's leading mathematicians, the Goths were Slavic through and through. This alone would fail to make a piece of sensational news. However, Fomenko redefines sensational, telling us that the Gothic tribes were none other but the biblical nations of Gog and Magog. That might sound like nonsense. After all, don't the Old Testament events date back to times immemorial? However, once you delve into the long-awaited English translation of Fomenko's history, fiction or science, you shall very soon discover that official history is absolutely and completely without competition in terms of making nonsense sound like science. History, fiction or science, is a phenomenal and unprecedented scientific experiment, since neither state-of-the-art methods of mathematical statistics nor astronomical data have ever been applied to history before. One would expect such a procedure to yield interesting results, but interesting doesn't remotely approach the results of Fomenko's research. Ancient and medieval history transform into a phantom, leaving us with the historical period of a single millennium to encompass everything from Jesus Christ, who is proved to have lived in the 11th century AD, to today. Definitely nonsense and positively impossible, you say? Just wait till you get infected with the new chronology meme, and mark our words, looking back at your vehement support of consensual history will be most embarrassing indeed.
This book will change your entire perception of history forever. What if ancient Rome, Greece and Egypt were invented during the Renaissance? What if the Old Testament was a rendition of events in the Middle Ages? What if Jesus Christ was born in 1053 and crucified in 1086 AD? Sounds unbelievable? Not after you've read History, Fictional Science by Anatoly Fomenko, the leading mathematician of our time.